She gives me loving like I ain't ever had. Then toss me to the curb like a dirty dish rag. Say, boys, it's a juice worth the squeeze. Every night she makes me feel like a king, then treats me like a dog the very next morning. Tell me, boys, what you think? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Every time I see her, I tell myself I'm through. But I got this itch, just won't go away. She scratches it like no one else do. She got the goods that make my head spin and turn. Well, I know what I'm playing with, cause I keep getting burned. Oh, tell me, boys, what you think? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Every time I see her, I swear things gotta change. But no matter how hard I try, I just can't stay away. The question, it's always the same. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? When you get what you want, but not what you need. Is the juice worth the squeeze? When you get what you want, but not what you need. Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on day 2 of Coffee with Stan. It was a really, really enlightening, invigorating, and I think optimistic day of conversations with members of the House from all over the country. And today we have an exciting series of conversations starting in just a minute with Representative Andy Kim from New Jersey. We then have Representative Angie Craig and Congresswoman Susan Wild. And then we're going to have a great conversation with David Hogg, who has really trailblazed his way into the public consciousness. And I think we're going to have a great conversation, really dovetailing on the conversation we had yesterday with Sam Drismala from Progressive Victory, talking about young people, how they are seeing our country, how they are seeing our politics, and what is bringing them to the fore. So looking forward to a great series of conversations. I'm really, really happy to have this first one with Andy Kim. Andy Kim is a 3-term member of Congress currently running to represent New Jersey in the United States Senate. Congressman Andy Kim represents New Jersey's 3rd congressional district currently, which include parts of South and Central Jersey. You know, Andy is the son of Korean immigrants. He went on to become a Rhodes Scholar and a career public servant, working as a diplomat and a civilian advisor to the commanding generals in Afghanistan. He served on the White House National Security Council staff under President Obama, and also, and I think really important to the conversations we've been having, Congressman Kim won a district that voted for Trump and became the first Democrat to be reelected from this district literally since before the Civil War. So the kind of bipartisan approach that hopefully soon-to-be Senator Kim brings to our conversations, I think is just absolutely crucial in this moment where everyone just seems to be screaming at each other from opposite sides of the room, where all the work has to be done in the center of the room. So, Congressman, soon-to-be, hopefully, Senator Kim, welcome to Coffee with Stan.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, the first thing I want to say to you, Congressman, is people are very, very, very fired up about your campaign and about you stepping in to, I think, move past some of the negativity that's been coming out of some of the corruption charges and all of the rest going on in New Jersey. And I think I'd love to just start with that question, just so we can kind of get it out of the way. You bring such a high level of commitment and integrity to the work that you do. How do you see this moment of you moving forward? You jumped right in early and said, listen, I've listened to an interview of yours and you said, I can't sleep at night thinking about this. I have got to put myself forward. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's no secret that we live in the time of the greatest amount of distrust in government in modern American history. In my state in New Jersey, 84% of people in New Jersey believe that their politicians are corrupt. That is a devastating number, and that shows you just how unhealthy our democracy is. And so, I'll be honest with you, I was not planning to run for U.S. Senate. I'm a public school kid, a son of immigrants. This is not something I had in the cards. But we had a crisis here in New Jersey when our senator at the time last year was indicted, and a lot of other past challenges when it comes to Jersey politics. And I just got kind of sick of it and just said, look, we need to change course in New Jersey, across this country, to be able to have a politics of integrity, to be able to restore that sense of trust. But it's not going to just happen on its own. So, I decided to step up. And what I'm trying to do is bring about to a new era of politics in New Jersey and hopefully try to restore it around the country too, a politics that is grounded in public service, not in hyperpartisanship, not in the toxicity that we see, not in the transactional natures that leads to and breeds to the corruption that we face. So that's my mission, and that's what I'm trying to do here with this Senate race.
Well, and I've had the opportunity in my conversations with you in the past to be there in moments where, as an example, the Congressional Dads Caucus, right? I remember when you were one of the founding members of that and put that together. And what you said at that time was, listen, there is no partisan dad. There are no Republican or Democrat dad roles. It's called DAD. Can you tell us what gave you and the others the idea to put that caucus together and how that caucus helps you to move the needle in Congress?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're absolutely right, and I think that's what we need to do more of. Like when you ask me how I won a congressional district Trump won, it's to make sure that we can build a sense of connection to people on foundations and identities that are stronger than politics. Restoring a sense that we're part of something bigger than all of us. We're all Americans. We're all family members and friends. Dads, moms, sons, daughters. That connection is stronger than Republican and Democrat, or at least should be stronger than that. So yes, when I came into Congress, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So you can imagine how tough that was. And, there are a couple of us young dads, young moms in Congress, and we started to share tips with one another, how we try to manage it within our own lives. But then we realized, especially during the pandemic, when, so many families were struggling with the lack of childcare, schools, and other things like that, we realized that it's important to have the voice of young parents in the United States Congress that can speak to these issues at a fundamental level about, needing affordable childcare, universal pre-K, about mental health support for our kids and grandkids all over the country, on trying to pass the child tax credit, on which was cut child poverty in half, about food and the fact that we have so many kids in this country that are hungry. Those are the types of things that we're trying to shine a light on, and we think that from that lens of being dads and moms, we can try to break through the partisanship that unfortunately is holding our country back from delivering the kind of services, especially to kids, that just shouldn't be partisan. It shouldn't be controversial to make sure that kids in America are not starving.
I mean, you brought up universal pre-K, which is something that I feel so strongly about. I know that you have fought so hard for, but I also know that you've been very involved in the Keep Kids Fed Act, which is, yet again, there's nothing partisan about keeping kids fed, right? That should be a pretty simple concept. Can you tell us more about how that's implemented and how you've seen that affecting people in your district?
Yeah, I mean, look, in my congressional district alone, congressional district, 780,000 people, we estimate about 60 to 70,000 people are considered food insecure. And of that, roughly around 16 to 18,000 are kids. And that's just one congressional district out of 435 in the country. It gives you a sense of the magnitude of the challenge that we're facing. We are the richest, most powerful country in the world. This is unfortunately a matter of will rather than a matter of possibility for us to address the needs of kids in particular when it comes to hunger. I right now I'm a second grader and a fourth grader. Going to school. I don't pay a bus fare every single day for them to get onto the bus. We think about it as an essential part of education. So is food. So is addressing the needs of hunger. A student cannot learn if they are hungry. A student cannot thrive if they are not, healthy. And that's something that's not only good for that kid, but it's good for our society. We are stronger as a country when we are a healthier country. And this is something that I hope we can all try to engage on. So I've pushed forward legislation trying to support the ability for us to be able to provide resources and meals and other types of support to hungry kids around our country. And sadly, my efforts have encountered more resistance than I would like. And it just again, boggles my mind, but it just shows the importance of having people in the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate, that want to make sure that we're looking out for the most vulnerable, especially our kids.
100%. And you started to talk a little bit about healthcare, Congressman, and I know that you've put a lot of your energy into the topic of healthcare. And I was interested in and didn't know that you're the son of a parent who had polio, who then became a scientist seeking cures for cancer and Alzheimer's. So this is very firsthand for you, both on both sides, right? A parent who has an illness and then a parent who is seeking out cures. So I feel it would be really interesting to hear from you. Where are we today on healthcare? You've talked about universal healthcare. Where are we on this trajectory to taking care of the people who live in our country?
Yeah, no, you're right. My father was born at the end of the Korean War, born with polio, suffered with that disability, his entire life, and would have been left to not amount to anything if it wasn't for the fact that he was able to get an education, get work opportunities. America took a chance on him, brought him in, educated. My dad ended up getting a PhD in genetics here in America.
Wow.
And it shows, what it is that, we can provide for people, if they're able to get the care that they need. And my father was always someone who said it just boggles his mind that in this country, we think about healthcare as some perk to a job, because for him, he couldn't get a job unless he had healthcare to help him manage his disability, help him strengthen up his body, be able to move forward. And I think that that's a fundamental shift that we need to make in this country. It's not easy, but this recognition that healthcare is for everyone, and we want to have a foundation of dignity and decency in the society. Make sure those that need care the most. And this is why I ran for Congress to start with. My congressman was leading the charge on gutting pre-existing condition protections, trying to make it harder for those that need care the most to actually get it. And so, that is something that we're struggling with as a society. We have this broken system that is fundamentally based on a premise that not everyone needs or should have health care, that it's for those that, that are afforded it. And, I just think that that's backwards completely. So yes, we've been trying to dramatically increase the number of people that have health care, health insurance. But we're continuing to hit this gap right now where we're not able to get through the final places because we're seeing states not following through on Medicaid expansion and other types of issues like that are an obstacle. So look, it's not easy. There's no magic wand that we can wave that's gonna fully change this over. But the work that I'm trying to do, I passed a legislation that I co-authored that lowers prescription drug costs starting next January. Because of legislation I co-authored, no senior in America will ever have to pay more than $166 a month for their prescription drugs through Medicare. That's real savings for people. I'm trying to lead legislation that would give everyone on Medicare vision, hearing, dental coverage. Who needs vision, hearing, dental coverage more than our seniors? Of course, that's what they need. So those are the types of steps that we're going to continue to press on going forward.
And your work in co-authoring this legislation to get these costs down for seniors in particular, we've had other conversations with other candidates talking about how they're hearing from their constituents $800 a month, $1,200 a month, numbers even higher than their actual benefits from Social Security. It just makes no sense. So how do you see that playing out? Do you see that cap having further pushback? Do you see that as a number that then continues to go down? What do we need to know, and how can we support you and your voice around this ability to negotiate those prices and then to get that cap in place?
Yeah, no, look, right. What we want to make sure, so the cap's coming into place for those on Medicare. What we also need to do as the next major step is allow Medicare to fully negotiate drug prices of all drugs. We have started that with some of the highest cost drugs that are there. But the fact that Medicare is not able to negotiate drug prices is just a travesty. It shows that, frankly, seniors getting screwed over. Private health insurance, they negotiate on behalf of their customers. The VA does on behalf of veterans. TRICARE does on behalf of our service members. But for some reason in law, well, we know why, is because, this is something that was put in place to benefit, pharmaceutical companies, the industry, not the seniors. So that's something we need to push forward on. But we have to make sure that we're doing this not just for our seniors, but for all Americans in terms of the ability to lower those costs. So yes, we're focused on some of the main drivers right now with Medicare, but we tried to get the $35 cap on insulin for all Americans. That's also something we need to do to move that forward. And I think that'll help us kind of burst through the dam and trying to be able to do this across our entire society. Because people are struggling with high costs, the housing costs and other things. I hear it from people. They're saying it feels like death from a thousand cuts. There's housing costs, there's healthcare costs, childcare, there's transportation. So, if I can relieve some pressure on healthcare, on transportation, and other means, it gives people just a little more breathing space, a little bit more ability to be able to not be filled with that sense of dire anxiety every single day and be able to live a fuller life. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, listen, you jumped right into my second question around, the affordability of life. And this phrase, death by 1,000 cuts, I hear that too, right? Whether it's leaving a grocery store and like, what? How much is this grocery bill? Whatever the percent is higher. You're addressing that in multiple ways. We already jumped ahead and talked about the Keep Kids Fed Act. What other programs can you bring us onto the inside of, because you are so active in this topic? We hear a lot about cost cutting at the grocery store by getting rid of price gouging. Is there anything that in particular stands out to you that that you will be fighting for as we support you and ask you to fight for us?
Yeah, and first of all, we need to make it more visible. I had a woman that we engaged in here in New Jersey, a senior. She was telling me that she has so much trouble when it comes to her budget, that she's been buying one extra large pizza at the beginning of the week and just rations that over the course of 7 days. It just shows you just how terrifying this is for so many people. And again, that's in New Jersey, in the richest, most powerful country in the world. So, for instance, yes, we want to make sure that we're addressing this in terms of the support structures, but I'll just kind of focus on two things, kind of take it in a different direction. About supply, for instance, with housing costs, we got to build more. We need a decade of building. And again, that's not a magic wand we can wave at the federal level. A lot of that requires state and local level, efforts and reforms and engagements. And so that's going to be tough, but we will not get out of this housing crisis until we build more and be able to move in that direction of having that kind of space. When it comes to other efforts that we're struggling with in our society, another key part that isn't often talked about in our politics is about the supply chain. When we think through why it is that cars and appliances and so many things during the pandemic, prices went through the roof, the squeezing people. It's because we didn't have enough semiconductor didn't have enough semiconductor chips that are powering this. Other types of raw materials, lumber for building, and other things like that. So I'm trying to lead an effort in Congress to secure our supply chain. Actions like the Chips and Science Act, that's revitalizing advanced manufacturing back here at home. That's good for our economy, good for our innovation, but it's also good for our supply chain to be able to make sure that we are not as vulnerable to global shocks as we saw, what happens and what that does to spiking prices all across our country. So those are some issues. Again, it's not always front page news. It's not always like the hot topic that's always there. But I hope people see, for me, I try to be strategic, try to think through, what are some places we can really make a difference in and try to zone in on a solution.
Well, Congressman, I think the reason we're here to get today and people are going to sit and listen to this conversation, whether they're with us live now or later today over the next few days, is because everyone views you as exactly that kind of public servant. Someone who is truly in the weeds, looking for a path, trying to find some answers, and not someone who is trying to scare us one way or the other or cajole us without anything behind it. So I just want to say from me to you, thank you so much for everything you do for our country. I think it will be a massive benefit to the United States Senate to have you there with a seat representing not just New Jersey, but the entire country. I hope that everyone who's watching, not everyone can donate, but if you can, you just click right through, click an amount. I used my Apple Pay. It's a 3-click process. If you can do it, please do it for the congressman. If you can volunteer, then go to his website. There's all kinds of volunteer opportunities over these last 10, 12 days. Maybe that's what you can do. And if at the very least, all you can do is share our conversation with the people that you know, both digitally and in person. Let's just spread the word and make sure that Andy Kim is the next senator from the state of New Jersey. From me to you, thank you so much for a solid, clean, optimistic conversation. It always is with you. And I will look forward to congratulating you, knock on wood, after this election.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. This year's 50 years since my parents immigrated from South Korea to the United States, and we feel humbled that we might be able to celebrate this 50-year anniversary by me becoming a U.S. Senator, the first Korean American ever, the first Asian American in the Senate from the East Coast. But I just hope people see in me that kind of next generation of leadership that we so badly need in this country to move us into this next era, to try to move past this brokenness and toxicity that we've seen with Trump and so many other challenges that we face, and that we can move forward. So thank you for this great conversation. For folks that want to go to my website, it's andykim.com. But I appreciate it so much, everybody, as we go into the final stretch. I want to make sure we can land this plane and get across as strong as possible. And hopefully I'll be able to do a lot of good in the U.S. Senate.
Well, you are going to do amazing work. Thank you so much. We're going to meet at 12:30 in just a few minutes with Representative Angie Craig. So I'm going to say goodbye to you, Congressman, and look forward to my conversation with Representative Craig in just a couple of minutes. See you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.